So how much should you be paying for financial advice? The real question is what is the advice and what does it cost you? And even if there's free advice, does that free advice still cost you more potentially? That's what I'm going to address in this video right now. Now you might be wondering, like, how much should I pay for financial advice? Like, do I pay for financial advisors or planners? Do I have these people that are more professionals that charge fees or whatnot? Do I do fee-based planning? Do I do commission-based? Do I go with the free advice? Do I go with the banker? Do I go with my HR representative at work? You're probably wondering, where do I go for this advice? How much should I pay or should I expect to pay? But more importantly, what's the best advice that gives you the biggest bang for your buck? I'm going to share that with you at the end of this video here. All right, so there's a lot of different ways to get financial advice. So let's just start kind of going through this. One, we got financial advisors. Now there are a lot of financial advisors out there, right? In fact, to be classified as a financial advisor, you don't have to do much. You literally just have to be able to give some kind of financial advice. Yes, there could be licensing associated, and sometimes you have people that are advisors out there that really don't have any licensing. Most people that talk about financial advisors usually have some sort of license. It could be an insurance license, could be a securities license, broker's license, something like that. You know, they hear like Series 7, 63, 65, you know, all these kind of things. Am I a CFP, you know, which that's more of a financial planner, right? CHLA, CFLA, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's all these letters that go behind people's names. Sometimes I laugh because I see some financial advisors that literally have 5 designations behind their name, yet they're broke in real life. I was like, my goodness, like you took all these tests. Why couldn't you make any money with this, right? So there's a lot of financial advisors, a lot of people willing to give financial advice. There's even people that are like counselors. You know, there's like debt counselors out there that also could be that way. They could be credit counselors, people that help you manage money. That's usually where financial advising comes from, is anybody helps you manage money. Where financial planners help you plan for the future. It's more like long-term planning, retirement planning, could be estate planning, although you're working in coordination with an attorney when you do that kind of thing. But you're really trying to work and plan for the future. These are different types of industries, different types of certifications, different types of advice that they're giving in general, and they will charge you in different ways. So let me share with you kind of the ways I learned, because I used to be the traditional mainstream financial advisor. Now, I mean, I'm not a big fan of financial advisors, as my shirt says. You know, I do believe this. I do believe most financial advisors have good hearts. They want to do what's right by their clients. I just know from being in that world myself that the advice that you're given, the training you're given as a financial advisor, doesn't necessarily make your clients a lot of money. It makes you good money, but it doesn't make your clients more money. And I learned that firsthand. I actually became a financial advisor almost 23 years ago. And as I got into that space, I was excited. I wanted to learn how to make money for myself. I wanted to see if I can get freedom from my dad, who said he would work until he died. I want to give him at least a year or two of his life back if he were able to do that. And so I was excited to learn everything I could. I was like a sponge, right? I just wanted to learn it all. And I wanted to be like this financial expert, you know? And as I did that, I realized it was just a few years in, I remember that the stock market went really bad. It went south because we had Y2K. I actually was birthed in the financial industry during Y2K, you know, with all 9/11 going on. We had all the scandals from 2002 when Enron and WorldCom and all these companies were lying about their numbers and failing. And so the stock market tanked like 22, 23% that year. It was an insane year, horrible year to learn to be a financial advisor, unless you want to be a financial advisor that actually makes it. Very few financial advisors made it through that period of time. Well, I remember in 2005, I remember that I was starting to learn from this financial advisor. He's teaching about average versus actual returns, telling us how we were actually lying to our clients. He was saying, listen, if you have $100,000, you lose 50%, how much do you have? We said $50,000. Like, what kind of return do you need to get from a $50,000 to $100,000? We said, well, if you lost 50, you need to make 50. He said, no. If you make 50% on $50,000, you only have $75,000. You need 100% return. You need to double your money to get to $100,000 again. He's like, if you do the averages, 100 in that 1 year minus the 50% of the other years, 50, divided by 2 years, that's an average of 25% per year. But your actual real yield is 0%. But if you have fees being charged coming out of that, then you might have more like -2% or -1% average because the 1% fees coming out. And so that was a big epiphany. I remember I cornered the guy and I said, listen, if this is the case, why am I telling everybody to invest in the stock market? Why am I telling them to gamble their money when they might be better off in things that are more guaranteed, things that have good up potential but no down potential? He said, well, understand, buddy, you're young. I can tell you're in your 20s, because I was at the time. I was in my late 20s. He says, I can tell you're young. You have all the time in the world to take all this risk. He's like, really? like, if you put your money in the market, you'll probably take those high risks. You'll probably make more money than you would doing more guaranteed things. He's like, I'm just offering this to you as another alternative because people are scared to be in the stock market. And I was like, wait a minute. So you're just telling me another way to sell people. And you're just trying to give me another product to sell them. He's like, exactly. And it was at that moment I realized as a financial advisor, I was really a financial salesperson. That's what I really was. I was a salesperson in a suit just trying to sell people products, financial products. They literally call them financial products, if that tells you anything. I worked for those institutions. I worked for the financial companies that make money off of you putting your money to set it and forget it, leave it there forever while they always make their fees. So understand that there's multiple ways to pay for financial advice. The way I was doing, I wasn't charging a fee, but I was paid commissions on people putting their money in those kind of investments. So if they put their money in kind of mutual fund or whatever it might be, or annuities or whatnot, I would get paid for a variety of different fees. I might get paid 1%. If I actually got more licensing, I could actually charge you 1% or so on your portfolio, and then that always comes out, whether you make money or not. The problem is this: the one person that always wins when you get financial advice is the financial advisor. The one that often loses is the client. This is why I had to leave. Once I realized this, once I realized that my clients weren't becoming financially free even after they've had decades of advice before me, and then also the financial advisors couldn't retire themselves, they weren't financially free, I knew there was a problem. I couldn't stay in the industry and feel like I had an honest bone in my body. Again, kudos to those I know that have good hearts and they want to make it work. But I will tell you this, if you just want to go buy mutual funds, it hasn't worked. It really hasn't worked for people. Not people that want a comfortable living in retirement. Even better yet, anybody who wants to live comfortably in an early retirement, for that matter, like what I was able to do when I was able to leave that industry, do things with real estate investing, and end up being able to retire when I was 28, almost 29 years old. And even after the recession kicked my butt, I came back again to then retire again when I was 39. I had to do it twice, guys, before I was 40. If that's not proof, I don't know what is. So understand that you're always paying for advice. And sometimes that free advice is the one that costs you the most. That advice you might take from your friend or your family member might be the most costly advice you've taken because it doesn't work. I'll tell you, I had one client where she was living in Arizona, a health coach. She was really excited. She had $250,000 sitting in her mutual funds. Now she reached out because she said, Chris, I'm in my 50s. I want to retire at some point. I don't think I'm going to make it by the time I'm 60. Why? Because financial advice says you should live on 3% a year. So for her, $250,000, 3% a year, $7,500 a year. She's like, that's not enough. I said, well, what do you need to live on? She's like, I just need $2,000 a month, or about $25,000 a year. So I said, if you want to be able to do that, you've got to be able to save about $750,000 to then live on that. So you got to triple your money from what you have. She's like, ugh, that's tough. Triple money in 10 years, do you think I could do that in the stock market? I said, not likely. Very rarely would that ever happen in a 10-year period. Very rarely. I said, however, you said you want $2,000 a month. That's $24,000 a year, right? Yeah. I said, what if you did this instead? Instead of just going with that, you can actually invest your money. Say you only earn 10%. And there's investments that we have in our network that pay more than 10%. But I know 10% is kind of the lower end. I said 10%. Guess what you make from that $250,000? $25,000. Yeah. How much is that per month? About $2,000 a month. I said, you hope to be able to retire in 10 years. If you want that $2,000 a month and just work part-time as a health coach in a few hours in the morning and then have the rest of your day free, guess what? You can actually do it this year. She's like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Is that really possible? I'm like, we do it every day. So it's possible. I can't give you guarantees, just like no financial advisor can give you guarantees. But yes, you could actually do it and have something backed by real assets, like real estate. And she's like, wow, that's amazing. Are you sure? Really? Yes, really. I said that 2 times already. I'm not telling you anything. Even if you don't hire us, you can go do it on your own. You'll probably be able to figure out how to do it eventually, even if you screw up a few times. And so she left. That was on a Friday. The next Monday, she came back. She's like, Chris, I'm not going to do it. I was talking to my girlfriends over the weekend. We're hanging out. And they said, no, don't do that. Just do what your financial advisor tells you to do. This woman literally gave up over 10 years of her life that she's probably going to have to go at least 15 to 20 years because remember, she wants $2,000 a month in those dollars that day. After, 10, 15 years, you're going to need about $4,000 a month to live the same lifestyle. And because of inflation. So for her, she's probably gonna have to get well over $1 million, not just triple her money. She's gonna have to probably quadruple or quintuple her money or more just to be able to finally have that comfort in retirement, living on that 3% that financial advisors recommend. That's why you gotta be aware of that financial advice. Free financial advice can be the most costly advice you ever get. Now, there's the other financial advice I mentioned about those advisors like myself who gets paid commissions on the back end. Well, the thing you have to ask yourself is, even if they're well-intentioned like I was, still, subconsciously, I'm still affected by, do I get paid from giving you this advice? Even if there was something better, would I even mention it? Maybe not. How many financial advisors do you know that love to recommend real estate? Very rarely you ever see that, because to them, everything looks like stocks, mutual funds. That's all they offer. That's all they're licensed to offer typically. That's why they do it. So those are commission-based. I think that's the second most dangerous thing you can do. First is friends and family, especially those that aren't free themselves, financially free themselves. Second is, of course, financial advisor pay commissions. Third is more a fee-based planner. Now these can be better. Sometimes they'll even be open to alternative investments because you pay them a fee whether you do their advice or not. The thing is, they're going to be the most expensive. Now they may not be as expensive as some, right? But they're going to be fee-based in that sense. Now some of these fee-based planners usually what they'll do is they'll either charge an upfront fee whether you do their plan or not, or they charge you a fee on the money under management. Many of them call assets under management, or AUM. Now, many of those advisors will charge at least a 1% charge on the investments they're doing. Sometimes they're very passive, sometimes they're a little bit more active, but at the end of the day, they're all guessing. They're all just hoping they're guessing correctly. But if you lose money, that doesn't work out. For example, we had somebody reach out recently and they said, yeah, we got $750,000 with this advisor. He charges about 1.5% a year on those fees. I said, you realize that you're actually being charged over $10,000 a year on this. By the way, like we charge fees for ours. We do consulting fees and we do a one-time fee. And I said, with our fees, you actually pay almost the same thing. And instead of just hoping you make money, you actually have to make money. You have to make money in order for it to work. And so you actually create income now. Where with his, it can go up, it can go down, right? And again, I always tell them there's no guarantees with what we do either. There could be losses that they could be experiencing. But the vast majority of our clients, like only about 5% of our deals have gone south, where the other 95% have been just fine, paid just the same or even better than what they expected. And so for that reason, I was like, yeah, you could do that, but you're going to be paying $10,000 each and every year. And if the market drops 20%, so then you're left with $500,000, let's just say, you lose 30 of your money, you still have to pay them about $7,000 a year, right? You're still paying them for them to lose your money. Doesn't that seem criminal to you? They're like, yeah, actually, this kind of sounds bad. And that's why I like fee-based, that's a flat fee. Flat fee-based versus more based on assets under management is a better way to go, that fourth way, which that says, hey, you got to perform. If you don't perform, you're fired. That's it, and that's great. That's the way it should be. I think there should be a vested self-interest when you guys work together to be able to create a common cause. And so that's why I kind of became the anti-financial advisor, right? I didn't want to be the traditional financial advisor. I didn't want to be locked into just offering real estate, just those typical investments of stocks and bonds, which is what even most fee-based planners talk about. I want people to experience the other side that actually worked for me. Because remember, ask your financial advisor or your financial planner, say, listen, if you didn't have all these commissions and stuff coming in, how much income could you retire on right now? I even had a client ask me, he said, Chris, this is actually when we were doing a little retreat at our company. He said, Chris, okay, be honest with me. What's your next passive income goal? I said, well, it's $50,000 a month. I'm at 40,000, a little over 40,000 right now. I want to get it to 50,000. That's my next goal. He's like, that's awesome. Why is it awesome? Because I can tell you most financial advisors, probably almost any financial advisor, won't have that kind of passive income coming in. And I'm not saying that to brag at all. I'm just saying that because I believe that if you're going to teach something, you should do it too. You should be someone that's a doer, not just a teacher. Because the truth is, you want to have results in your life, and that's what you need as well. So just understand that there's financial advice you pay for, there's some that's free, that costs you the most money. Some you pay for, it might even cost you a little bit more money, but what does it ultimately make you at the end? That's the question you should be asking. It doesn't matter if you're using us or using them, it doesn't matter. What really is mattering is, what do I get for the money? What value do I get for the money I invest in that advice? That is what's key for you. What kind of education do you get that you can take with you, that you can make money over and over and over and over again forever? That's why we have people making anywhere from tens of thousands a year to hundreds of thousands a year in passive income, because they're trying to do it year after year and grow that income every year as they compound and grow that income to become better for themselves. That is financial freedom. That's advice that I'd be willing to pay for. That's financial advice I did actually pay for. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of things I did wrong. There's things I did right. It's much easier to do it right the first time, not have to retire twice like I did. So if you want to know more how to do that, go down that rabbit hole, go to moneyripples.com, try that passive income calculator to see what's possible in your life right now in the next 12 months. Try that right now.